I don't have long, so I'll talk fast. Not so fast you miss anything, just fast enough to finish. They're on the floor below me now. I can hear them on the stairs. They aren't hurrying. That's the part nobody warns you about. The end of the world. It doesn't run at you. It walks. It has all the time there is, and it knows it. So, while it climbs, let me go back to the beginning. Let me tell it properly. Once, to someone, even if the someone is only this little red light and whoever finds it after. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I was alone. Not lonely. I want to be exact about that, because being exact is the only thing I've got left. I was alone the way some men are tall. It was just the shape I came in. Nobody at home, nobody waiting on a text back. For years I thought that was the thing wrong with me. Turns out it's the only reason I'm still me. You won't understand that yet. Stay with me, you will. It started so small that I have to be honest, I almost missed it. We all almost missed it. That's how it wanted to be. It started with Reyes. Reyes had the desk across from mine. Loud man. Talked through every meeting, brought the wrong coffee order back for everybody and laughed about it. The kind of person who fills a room so you don't notice you're not in it. And then, one Tuesday, he was quiet. Not sick quiet. Not bad day quiet. He came in, he sat down, he did his work, better than usual, actually, faster. And he just didn't fill the room anymore. I said good morning, and he turned and looked at me and smiled, and he said it back, good morning. And the smile was right, and the words were right. But he held the look a half second too long, like he was reading me off a card. I told myself it was nothing. People have flat days. Then, a week later, Reyes stopped coming in. Nobody said anything. That's what I keep circling back to. Nobody asked where he went. I'd have expected someone to say, "Hey, where's Reyes? The desk's empty." And instead, the whole floor just closed over the gap. Smooth, like water. Like he'd never been loud at all. I asked. I wanted on the record that I asked. And the woman 2 desks down looked up at me, friendly, and she said, "Oh, he's nearly open." That's the phrase. I need you to hear it the way I heard it, so you'll know it when it finds you. It's nearly open. It doesn't mean anything. That's the trick of it. It sounds like the front half of a sentence that's about to make sense. He's nearly open to the idea, the store's nearly open, your file's nearly open. Your brain reaches out to finish it for them, and that reaching is the door. You complete their sentence, and a little piece of you steps through to do it. I didn't complete it. I just said, "Open to what?" And she smiled and went back to her screen. Don't repeat it. I'm serious. Whoever's listening, don't say it back to anyone. Not even to ask what it means. Especially not to ask what it means. After that, I started seeing the shape of it everywhere. And I'll tell you the truth, I know how this sounds. I know exactly how a man sounds when he says, "I started seeing it everywhere." Hold that against me if you want. But listen, it was the angles first. You ride the same train every morning for 9 years. You stop seeing people, their furniture. But once you've noticed one thing wrong, you can't unnotice. And one morning I looked up from my phone and every single person in that car was turned the same way. Not staring, not posed, just angled. A few degrees off from wherever they should have been facing. Heads tipped the same direction, like sunflowers, like compass needles. And they were all pointed at the old radio mast on the East Hill. That dead steel tower nobody's used in 30 years. I looked back down at my phone. I looked back up. Some of them had shifted, you understand. The train had turned. But they were all still pointed at the mast, correcting for the curve, holding the line. You'll tell me people lean when a train banks. You'll tell me I was tired. I was primed. I saw a pattern because I'd gone looking for one. And maybe that's all it was, that first morning. I'd love to believe that. I've tried very hard to believe that. It would mean I'm only sick and not the other thing. But it kept being true. Every morning. More of them each time. I started not sleeping well around then, and I want to be fair to the version of me that was still mostly fine, because the not sleeping is going to matter later, and I won't be fair to it then. It was the dreams. I'd close my eyes and there'd be this pressure, like a hand laid flat against a window from the outside. No face, just the patience of something that has decided about you and is simply waiting for you to come around to it. And in the dream, I always almost did. That's the horror of it. In the dream, it felt like relief, like setting down something I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten it had weight, like never being alone again. I'd wake up with my face wet, and I couldn't tell you if I'd been crying because it was terrible or because it was over. That was the night I understood how it gets in. It gets in when you sleep. It gets in through the part of you that wants to be let in. And the lonelier you are, the more of that wanting you've got stored up, the wider the door. Which should have meant I was the easiest one in the city to take. But it didn't take me. And it took weeks before I worked out why. And when I did, it was the bleakest thing I have ever learned about myself. It couldn't get a grip on me because there was nothing in me reaching back. All those years I thought I was broken, numb, half-built. A man who couldn't connect to save his life. And it turned out that was the one wall it couldn't get through. The thing that ruined my life was the only thing that kept me alive. You can sit with that one. I've had nothing but time to. There was one person who'd have argued with me about all this. Sam. Sam was the friend. The only one, if I'm honest, and I'm trying to be. The one who'd call on a Sunday for no reason. Who'd notice if I went quiet and wouldn't let me get away with it. We'd known each other since we were kids, and he had this way of looking at me when I was lying to myself. I'm going to need to tell you about Sam later. I don't want to do it now. Just remember that he called. Remember that he was the one who noticed something was wrong with me. Hold on to that. Because when I tell you the rest, you're going to want to know whether anyone tried to reach me, whether anyone held out a hand. Someone did. I want that on the record before I tell you what I did with it. So that's where it started. A quiet coworker. An empty desk nobody mourned. A car full of people pointed at a dead tower. A phrase that finishes itself inside your skull. And a man who couldn't sleep, sitting alone in a city that was very slowly, very gently, very lovingly turning. I made a decision around then. The decision that I think saved me and I think damned me, and I still can't tell you which mattered more. I decided to stop sleeping. If the door was in my sleep, I'd just stop opening it. Simple. I bought the coffee. I bought the pills off the shelf, the ones for truck drivers. I told myself a few days, a week maybe, until I figured out what was happening and who I could trust. I didn't sleep again for a long time after that. And everything I'm about to tell you, every single thing, I saw through the eyes of a man who had stopped sleeping. Keep that in your hand. Don't put it down. because I never did manage to. The first 3 days without sleep, you feel like a genius. That's the cruel joke of it. Everything gets clear. Everything gets bright and close and connected. I could see the pattern now, and the pattern was everywhere. And God help me, I felt chosen. Awake while the whole city slept its way out of being people. The last man at the party who hasn't had a drink. I kept a notebook. I'm embarrassed about the notebook. I want to tell you about it anyway, because you should know exactly how far down I was already, this early, before I'd done anything you could call wrong. Pages and pages. Times, directions, who'd gone quiet and what day. Little arrows in the margins, all of them pointing east, to the mast. I'd drawn the mast maybe 40 times. I'd started to think of it as a mouth, a long steel throat the city was being poured down. I went looking for who opened it. That part. I'll defend that part to anyone. That was the sane thing to do. If something's wrong, you find the cause and you cut it out. So I looked. It wasn't hard. These things never start in the dark. They start in a rented room above a laundromat with folding chairs and a sign-up sheet. They called themselves the Open Hand. I found them the way you find anything sad and small. A forum almost nobody posted on. A few flyers gone soft with rain on a community board. Meditation, the flyer said. Release. An end to the loneliness of the self. Tuesdays and Thursdays, all welcome. An end to the loneliness of the self. I read that line standing in the rain and I laughed because, of course that's the bait. You don't catch a city with fear. You catch it with the one thing it's starving for. You catch it with company. Hold on. Something's on the stairs. No, it was nothing. A settling. Buildings this old, they talk to themselves. I'm all right. I'm still here. Where was I? The Open Hand, yes. I went to a Thursday. I need you to understand, I went in there ready to find monsters. I had it all built up, robes maybe, candles, some hollow-eyed man at the front doing the work of the thing on the hill. What I found was 9 people in a cold room who looked exactly as frightened as I felt. There was a woman running it. Older, kind face, the sort of face that's spent its whole life apologizing for taking up space. And when I started asking my questions, the real ones, the ones that gave me away, she didn't get angry. She got sad. She got sad in a way I've never been able to shake. She said they hadn't meant to. She said it like a woman confessing to a fire she'd lit to keep warm. They'd only wanted to feel less alone. They'd found something, a practice, a sound, a way of breathing all together until the edges of you got thin and you could feel the person beside you from the inside. And it had worked. God, she said, it had worked so beautifully. For a few weeks, they were happier than they'd ever been. And then it didn't need them anymore. That's what she told me. That's the thing I went there to learn and wish to this day I hadn't. She said, we thought we were praying to it. We worked out too late that we were just the first mouths it learned to speak with. I asked her how to stop it, how to close it. There has to be a way to close it. And she looked at me with those sad, apologizing eyes, and she said, it was never ours to close. It's not on the hill, love. The hill's just where we pointed. It's in the breathing now. It's in everyone who ever wanted to belong to something. And then, and I swear this is true, I swear it on the little red light, she smiled, just slightly. And she said, you should let it in, you'd feel so much better. You're nearly... I didn't stay to hear the rest. You see what I mean now, don't you? About there being no enemy to fight? I'd come looking for the hand on the lever and found out there was no lever. The open hand hadn't built the flood. They'd just been the crack in the dam. And the crack doesn't matter once the whole valley's underwater. That was the day the fear turned into something worse than fear. You can run from fear. Fear has a shape, a direction, a door marked exit. What I had now didn't have a door. It was the slow, gray understanding that it was already over. That I was a man standing in an empty house, talking about evacuation routes, while outside the city had already quietly agreed to drown. I didn't sleep that night either, obviously. By then, I'd lost count. 5 days, 6. The genius feeling was long gone. What replaced it is hard to describe to someone who slept. The world starts to buffer. You turn your head and the room arrives a half-second late. Faces you know go strange and then snap back. Sounds detach from their sources, so a door closing 2 floors down happens right beside your ear. I knew all that. I knew what sleeplessness does. I'm not an idiot, whatever I became. I sat there and I said to myself plainly, "You cannot trust your eyes now. You have made yourself into a faulty instrument." Remember that when we get to the bad part. I never once lost the knowledge that I might be mad. I just decided it didn't change what I had to do. Before Sam, I tried to get help. I want that on the record, with all the other things I want on the record, because the list of times I tried is the whole case for the defense, and I'm the only one left to read it out. I called the number first, the 3 digits they teach you when you're small enough to still believe there's an adult somewhere who picks up. It rang a long time. That should have told me something. It never rings long, that number. It's the one number in the world built never to ring long. But it rang, and it rang. And then a woman answered, and her voice was calm. Calm the way deep water is calm. She said, "What's your emergency?" But she didn't say it like a question. She said it like the first line of something she'd already finished 1,000 times. So I told her. Too fast. I know how I must have sounded. The city, the breathing, the hill, the people going quiet, the lights, all of it pouring out of a man who hadn't slept in a week. And she let me. She didn't interrupt. She just breathed, slow and even on the other end. And the breathing was in time with mine. I stopped. I held my breath to be sure. And down the line, in the little electronic hiss, her breath went on without mine. 1 beat, 2, slow and patient. And then she said so gently, "It's all right. We've had a lot of calls like yours. Everyone's frightened right before. You don't have to be. Stay on the line with me. Help is coming. It's nearly..." I put the phone down like it was hot. Now, you're allowed to tell me a dispatcher breathes slow on purpose to keep a panicking caller calm. That's the training. That's literally the job. You're allowed to tell me the line crackled and nearly here just lost its second word in the static of a phone I'd been clutching for a week with a shaking hand. I've allowed myself all of that. In here, in the dark, more times than I can count. It doesn't help. Because here's the one thing I can't argue around. I never heard a siren. Not that night, not the next. Not once, anywhere in the city, ever again. You call that number, and the entire point of it, the whole reason it exists, is that the world comes screaming toward you with its lights on. Nothing came. The loudest sound a city owns, the sound it makes when one of its own is in danger, never sounded again. It had gone under the held note with everything else. Quiet. Quiet now. They've stopped on the stairs. They do that. They stop and they wait, and I think they're listening to me the way I'm listening to them. Two animals in the dark, each one tracking the other by breath. I'll keep my voice down. After the number, I called my sister. I haven't mentioned a sister. There's a reason. We hadn't spoken in 9 years, over something stupid, the kind of thing that feels enormous right up until the world ends, and then turns out to have been dust. She was the last person on earth I was related to, and I'd let 9 years go by rather than be the one to call first. That's the kind of alone I was. That's the wall, doing to my own blood what it did to everyone, long before any of this started. But I called her. Because that's what the end of things does to you. It makes you reach, finally, for all the people you spent your life not reaching for. She answered on the second ring, and her voice was so warm. Warmer than I had ever heard it. 9 years of cold, gone like it never was. She said my name like it was Christmas morning. She said, "Oh, it's you. I knew you'd call. I've been thinking about you so much lately. We all have." And I started to cry, right there on the floor. Because after the hill and the breathing and the silence, my sister was glad to hear from me. And then she said, "Come home. Come and be with us. You shouldn't be out there alone, not now, not with everything so strange. We're all together here. It's so peaceful. You'd feel so much better. You've held on so long. You can finally put it down. We're all nearly..." I hung up on the warmest my sister had ever been to me in her life. That's the price. You hear it? That's the cost of the thing it sells. To get the warm room, the glad voice, the family that's finally happy you called. All you have to do is stop being the one separate, frightened, freezing person who won't come in out of the cold. And I wanted it. God forgive me, sitting on that floor, I wanted it so badly. That's the part I can only say to you and a red light. Not that I was afraid of it, that I wanted it. That every door it swung open was a door I'd stood outside my whole life, knocking. And now they were all opening at once and saying, "Come in, come in. You're nearly home." I think that's why I had to make it a monster. Do you understand? I think if I had let it be what it looked like, peace, belonging, an end to the cold, I would have walked straight into it with my arms wide open. So I built it into a horror instead. A thing with a hill and a hunger and a plan to end the world. Because you can refuse a horror. You cannot refuse the only warmth you have ever been offered. Not unless it's trying to kill you. So I needed it to be trying to kill me. I think I needed that more than I have ever needed anything. Keep that one too, for when we get to her. I had to go out eventually. That's the stupid, mortal truth of it. The world can be ending and your body still wants coffee and bread. The coffee was gone, and by then I needed the coffee more than food, because the coffee was the last thing standing between me and the door in my sleep. So on the 8th day, or the 9th, I went out into the city to see what it had become. I almost wish I hadn't. The inside of my own head I could argue with. The street I could not. It was a bright, ordinary afternoon. That was the first wrong thing, that it was so ordinary. Clean sky, sun out, people everywhere going about it. Shopping, walking, waiting at the lights. From a distance, completely normal. You had to get close to feel it. Nobody was talking. A whole street of people, and not one conversation anywhere in it. They moved, they crossed, they went in and out of shops, and they did it in a kind of current, like a school of fish, like a flock turning in the air. No one bumped anyone. No one had to. They all knew where everyone else was going to be, the way the cells of one body know, and they flowed around each other in a silence so complete that the loudest thing on that street was my own footsteps, slapping along out of time, the one piece of grit left in the machine. And every face, when it passed through the right angle, tipped east, a few degrees, toward the hill. 1,000 tiny corrections all afternoon, a whole city of needles swinging gently toward one dead steel mast, and not one of them knowing they did it. I went into the supermarket because I'd come for coffee, and some animal part of me would not be turned back. Bright lights, that thin, tinned music they pipe in over everything, and the people drifting the aisles, calm, unhurried, their baskets filling, and all of them, I will swear it, at whatever the end of this turns out to be, all of them breathing together. The whole store. 100 chests under the fluorescence, rising and falling as one slow tide, with the tinned music laid over the top of it like a skin stretched over deep water. I grabbed what I could. My hands shook so badly I dropped half of it. And a stock clerk came to help me. A kid, couldn't have been 20. Kind, smiling, that awful peace all over his young face. He handed me the coffee and he looked right into me and he said, glad, helpful, "You don't have to carry all that yourself, you know. You can put it down. We're nearly..." And then it happened. The thing I can't explain and won't pretend I can. The store went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The music stopped. The hum of the coolers stopped. The breathing, that 100-chested tide, stopped all at once, caught at the very top of one inhale. Every person in that enormous bright space frozen between one moment and the next. And the only sound left in the whole place was a coffee can rolling out of my hand and away across the floor. For 1 second, the entire city held its breath. And in that second, I felt it look at me. Not the clerk, not the shoppers, the thing behind all of them. The held note, the closed mouth. It found the one grain of grit still loose in its machine, and it turned its whole attention onto me. And the weight of that attention was the loneliest and most enormous thing I have ever stood beneath in my life. Then I was on my back in the parking lot with no memory of crossing the store, sky wheeling overhead, a stranger's hands under my arms lifting me up, and the thin music drifting back out through the doors like nothing at all had happened. So, explain that one for me. I'll even help you. I hadn't slept in 9 days, and a body that hasn't slept in 9 days simply drops. The mind whites out, and afterward it fills the gap with a story. And a starved, terrified mind tells itself the biggest story it can find, because the truth, that you fainted in a shop like a sick animal, is somehow harder to bear than being singled out by a god. I know all of that. I have said all of that to myself, lying right here. And underneath it, in the place the arguing can't reach, there is still a man who stood in a bright supermarket and felt an entire city stop breathing at the same instant, and who would give anything left to give, to be certain that it didn't happen. I went home with no coffee. I dropped it all in the lot. I went home and I bolted the door, and I finally, completely understood the thing the sad woman above the laundromat had been trying to tell me. There was no one to call. No number, no family, no street, no help. No West, no car, no town that still slept in the dark. Or if there was one, it was further than a man with no coffee and no sleep was ever going to get. The whole valley was underwater. I was a single held breath in a drowned city, and the only question left in the world was, how long before I had to let it out? That's where I was. That's the floor I was standing on. Which brings me to Sam. I told you I'd come back to him. I'd give a great deal not to. Sam called on the Sunday. Of course he did. I hadn't answered anyone in 2 weeks, and the silence had finally gotten loud enough to reach the one person who still listened for me. He didn't ask if I was okay. He knew better. He just said, "I'm worried about you, and I'm not going to pretend I'm not. Come to dinner. Just us and a couple of the others. You don't have to talk. You just have to be in a room with people who like you. People who like you." I want you to hear how that sounded to me on no sleep, 6 days into the end of the world. It sounded like a trap with my name carved into it. Be in a room with people. Let them breathe near you. Let the edges go thin. But I went. I want it remembered that I tried. Some scrap of the old me, the one who wanted exactly that. A warm room, people who liked him. That scrap got up and put on a clean shirt and went. There were 5 of them when I got there. Sam and his partner and 3 others I half knew. And for about 10 minutes, it was fine. It was so painfully, beautifully fine that I nearly cried into my drink. Lamplight, the smell of something in the oven, easy talk. And then I noticed the breathing. I'd been listening for it without meaning to. You do after a while, you can't not. And underneath the talk and the music, there was this rhythm in the room. Slow, even. 5 chests rising and falling and falling and rising all together, in time. Like one animal wearing 5 coats. I told myself, people in a calm room relax into sync. That's real, that happens. I told myself that. Then Sam's partner laughed at something and turned to me, warm as anything, and said the city had been so strange lately, hadn't it? Everyone could feel it. And wasn't it almost a relief, the feeling that something was nearly... And 4 other faces turned to me at once, smiling, waiting for me to finish it. I knocked the chair over getting out of there. I remember the chair. I remember Sam's face, the real grief in it, calling my name down the stairwell while I went down 3 at a time. I remember thinking, even the grief is bait. They make him sound like that on purpose. They keep the part of him that loved me to use on me. That's the kind of thing I was thinking by then. I'm not hiding it from you. I'm laying it out so you can watch me do it. Sam came to my apartment 2 nights later. Alone. No others. Just him at my door at 11 at night, with his hands open at his sides where I could see them. He'd always known me well enough to show me his hands. He said, "I'm not leaving until you let me in." And something in me, some cold, certain, ruined thing said, "There it is. Let me in." That's all it's ever wanted. That's the whole prayer, isn't it? Let me in. Open the door. He said other things. He said I needed a doctor. He said he was scared for me. He said he'd sit with me all night and we'd find someone in the morning. He said, please. He said my name. He said he loved me like a brother and he wasn't going to watch me disappear like the others. Like the others. He shouldn't have said that. He couldn't have known, but to me, on no sleep, that was the mask slipping. That was the thing inside Sam letting me know it had counted the others too. That it knew there'd been others. That it was keeping a list, and I was on it. and the warm, familiar voice was just the last clever thing it had left to try. But I didn't open the door. Not yet. I need that known with all the rest. For a long time, I couldn't tell you how long, time was soup by then, I stood on my side of that door with the chain on, and Sam stood on his, and we talked through 3 inches of wood like 2 men talking across a grave. He never raised his voice. That was almost the worst of it. He just kept being Sam. He talked about when we were kids. He brought up things only he could have known, small private things. The summer my father left. The night I called him from a bridge years ago and he drove an hour in the rain to sit with me and didn't say a word. Just sat. He was doing it on purpose, I knew, laying down our whole shared life like a rope under the door for me to grab. And the cold thing in me admired it. That's a terrible thing to admit. The cold thing listened to him dredge up the most private griefs of my life, and it thought, of course it would use those. Where else would it have gotten them but out of Sam, hollowed out? Every memory I trusted now a hook with my own history for bait. The more true the thing he said, the more certain I became it wasn't really him saying it. Do you see the trap I'd built? Inside it, love itself became the proof of the enemy. The realer he was, the faker he had to be. There was a moment, though. I have to tell you about the moment because it's the one that haunts me past even the end of it. He stopped arguing. He just went quiet on the other side. And then, in a small, broken voice, not performing anything, he said, I can't lose you too. Do you understand? You're the only one who ever really knew me. If you go, I'm alone in this, with nobody who remembers who I was. So I'm going to stand here in this hallway until you open the door or until I die. Because those are honestly the only 2 ways this ends for me. And the wall came down. For 1 second, 1 second, the human thing won. I heard my oldest friend tell me he was as alone as I was, that he'd kept his own watch all these years just like me. And the cold case fell apart in my hands and I thought, with my whole real heart, it's Sam. It's just Sam. You're sick. You haven't slept. And the one person left who loves you is dying on the other side of this door. And all you have to do is open it and be held and be helped and be human again. My hand was on the chain. I had it off the catch. I was going to let him save me. And then I heard him breathing through the door. In the silence after he'd said his piece, slow and even, in and out, calm and deep, the patient tide, and laid right over the top of it, very faint, coming up the stairwell behind him. The hum, the held note, as if the whole building had leaned in to listen at the exact moment I reached for the chain. You'll tell me a frightened man at a door breathes slow to steady himself. You'll tell me the hum was the blood in my own ears, where it had lived for 2 weeks. You'll tell me I was 9 days gone and reaching for any reason at all. And you'll be right. You'll probably be right. You're almost certainly right. But in that moment, the cold thing rose up one last time with its closing argument. And its argument was simply, there. Hear it? It almost worked. It got the chain off. And the only thing that breathes that calm, with the hum behind it, at the second you finally reach for the door, is the thing that has been trying to get you to open the door this whole time. And I believed it. God help me, I believed the worst thing over the best thing, because the worst thing let me keep the wall, and the best thing asked me to come out from behind it, and I did not know how. 40 years. I did not know how. So I took the chain off. And I want to be exact because exact is all I've got. I did not open that door to be saved by my oldest friend. I opened it because the cold, certain thing had rested its case, and the verdict had come back. And the verdict was that the last and cleverest mask the enemy owned was standing in my hallway, wearing the face of the only person who ever loved me. I let him in. I'm going to leave it there, not to spare you, to spare me just for one more minute. Because the next part doesn't get easier, no matter how many times I go back over it, and I have gone back over it more times than there are hours in a night. I let him in. And in the morning I was alone in my apartment, and I was still myself, and Sam was not anywhere that he could ever be reached again. And the worst thing? The thing I need you to understand, the thing that should have stopped me and didn't, is that after it was done, the room was quiet. The breathing was quiet. The hum I'd been hearing under everything for 2 weeks, that low sound like a held note, like the city humming with its mouth closed. For 1 hour after Sam, it stopped. The apartment was just an apartment, just me and the silence, and my own breath, which was the only breath in the world I could be sure of. And the cold, ruined thing in me said, "See? You were right." It went quiet because you cut out the part of it that was in your home. The tired old human thing in me, the part that was still barely a man, that part knew something else. That part knew the silence after you do something like that isn't the silence of a war won. It's just the silence of a thing that can't be undone, sitting in a room with the man who did it. I couldn't tell them apart anymore. The cold thing and the human thing, they used the same voice. They'd been using the same voice for days. That's the real horror of it, if you want to know. Not the hill, not the breathing. It's that I could no longer find the seam between the man trying to survive the end of the world and the man who had simply, quietly, on too little sleep, become something the world needed to be saved from. I want to believe there was still a seam. I'm telling you all this so that maybe you can find it. From out there, from wherever you're sitting, safe, with the lights on. Maybe you can hear where the man stops and the monster starts. Because in here, in this voice, in this skull, I never could. There it is again, the stairs. That's not the building this time. That's weight. That's a foot finding a step and testing it. They're past the second floor. I have to go faster now. I have to tell you about the building and about the run and about her. I owe her the time it takes to tell it right, even with them coming, because she's the one I owe more than time. Let me tell you about Mara. Mara lived 1 floor down and across the hall, in the unit with the dead plant in the window. I'd lived in that building 4 years, and I knew her the way you know a neighbor in a city like this, which is to say, not at all. A nod at the mailboxes, a held elevator. Once, a borrowed roll of tape that I never gave back and she never asked for. 4 years of being 2 strangers stacked on top of each other, breathing the same stairwell air, alone in parallel. I knew her name only because it was on the buzzer panel. M. Keel. I'd filled in the rest. Mara felt right, so Mara is what I called her in my head for 4 years before I ever said it out loud. The reason I'm telling you about a woman I barely knew is that when the building started to turn, she was the only other window still dark at night. The only one not lit by that light. I should describe the light. You'll need to know the light for the end. The turned don't sit in the dark. That's one of the tells, one of the real ones, one I'll stand behind. Once it has you, you leave the lamps on, all of them, all night, like the body's still in there somewhere, afraid of something, and it's the last thing the body gets to ask for. So from the street, in those last days, you could read the building like a chart. You could see it climbing. 3rd floor went first, then most of the 4th. I'd stand at my own dark window at 3 in the morning and watch the squares of warm light multiply below me, unit by unit, and I'd think, it's coming up the building, the way it came up the city, floor by floor. The way water finds the lowest thing and then rises. And 2 windows stayed dark. Mine and hers. I should be honest about what that did to me. After Sam, I was alone in a way I don't have words big enough for. I had cut out the last person who loved me with my own 2 hands and told myself it was war, and the telling hadn't held, and I was sitting in the wreckage of that with no sleep and no one and no door out. And then there was one dark window. One other person the thing hadn't gotten. One other instrument the city hadn't tuned. You have to understand what that is to a drowning man. It's not hope, exactly. It's worse than hope. It's company. I went down and I knocked on her door. I don't know what I expected. I think some part of me expected nothing. Expected her to be gone too. The dark window, just a turned thing that liked the dark. But she opened it on the chain, one eye in the gap. And the eye was frightened and quick and human. And she looked at me and she said, low, fast, "Is it you? Is it still you?" And I said, "Is it still you?" And we stood there, the 2 of us, each waiting to see if the other would say the phrase, each holding our breath to listen for the rhythm. 2 strangers in a doorway at the end of the world, running the same desperate test on each other. She didn't say it. I didn't say it. She took the chain off. That was the closest thing to joy I have felt in this entire account, and I want it marked because of where it goes. For 3 days, Mara and I were not alone. We barricaded. We pooled what we had, her water, my coffee, her good sense, my terrible certainty. She was smart. Smarter than me, and steadier, and she'd seen it too, in her own way, from her own dark window. The breathing, the light, a coworker gone quiet, a phrase that finished itself. She'd come to it from the other side of the building and arrived at the same shape, and oh, the relief of that. To have a witness. To not be the only faulty instrument, and so maybe not faulty at all. I should tell you what those 3 days actually were, because they are the only good thing in this whole account. And because if you don't feel what they were, you won't understand what I did at the end of them. We didn't do much, that's the thing. There was nowhere to go yet, nothing to do but wait for dark and watch the lights climb the building below us, floor by floor. So we just were, together. 2 strangers in a small, dark room, keeping each other company at the end of the world. She told me about the plant. The dead one in her window, the one I'd filled in a whole imaginary version of her around. She laughed about it, quietly, the way you laugh at the end of things. She said she'd bought it the week she moved in, 4 years ago. Told herself it was a fresh start, a thing to keep alive. And then she'd just stopped. Forgot it needed her. Watched it go brown, a leaf at a time, and never once got up to save it. "I think I knew," she said, "that if I couldn't keep one stupid plant alive, that said something about me I didn't want to find out." And we sat in the dark with that, the 2 of us, because I knew exactly the things she meant. We were the same kind of alone. We'd just been doing it in separate apartments, one floor apart, for 4 whole years. We played cards by a candle. Can you believe that? The city going under outside, the lights crawling up the building, and the two of us playing some half-remembered card game by a tea light because the alternative was listening to the hum. She cheated. I caught her cheating and called it, and she grinned at me, this real grin, lit gold from underneath. And for 1 second, I forgot all of it. The hill, Sam, the breathing. I just laughed. An actual laugh out of an actual chest, the first one in I don't know how long. And it startled us both. We went quiet after, a little frightened of it, the way you'd be frightened to find a flower growing in a wound. On the second night, I almost slept. That's how safe she made me. 9 days of holding the door shut against my own eyelids, drinking that truck stop poison to stay on the right side of consciousness, and sitting there in the dark near her, I felt my head start to go down, felt the warm pull of it. And it wasn't terror that woke me, it was her hand, light on my shoulder. She'd been watching. She said, "Go ahead, I'll keep watch. I've got you. Nothing's getting in while I'm awake. I'll keep watch. I've got you." Nobody had said anything like that to me in my entire adult life. And I want you to mark what I felt right then, because it's the whole hinge of everything. It's the exact place the story turns. I felt safe. And being safe felt like falling. 40 years of carrying my own watch, my own wall, my own cold, clean solitude. And a stranger says I've got you, and something in me just sets the weight down and leans into another human being for the first time since I was a child. And it was the best feeling I have ever had. And it terrified me past anything the hill ever managed. Because I could feel the wall coming down. I could feel myself starting to need her. And I had spent my whole life knowing, the way you know your own name, that I was a man who needed no one. People don't change like that. Not in 3 days. Not at 40. Something changes them. You see where this is going. I can hear it in my own voice, even now, even loving her, even grieving her. I can hear the cold thing already building its case in the dark by candlelight, while she kept watch over me and called it keeping me safe. We made a plan to run. Get to the ground, get to her car, get out of the city before the roads closed the way the building had closed. East was the mast, so we'd go west. We'd go anywhere that wasn't east. We'd just drive until the windows went dark again, until we found a town that still slept in the dark like people. It was a good plan. It was the first good plan I'd had in weeks. Because for the first time, it wasn't only mine. And that, I see it now. I can only see it now. That was the exact moment the thing finally got its grip on me. Not through sleep. I never slept. It got me through her. Because here is what I have to confess, and it is the center of everything. It is the rotten heart of the whole story. Somewhere in those 3 days, sitting in the dark with Mara, splitting the last of the coffee, listening to her breathe, and her breathing was her own. It never once fell into the rhythm. I checked. God knows I checked. Somewhere in there, I stopped being alone. I felt it go. I felt the thing I'd carried my whole life, the apartness, the cold, clean solitude that had been the shape I came in. I felt it start to thaw. I started needing her. I started listening for her on the other side of the room the way you listen for someone you can't afford to lose. I started, after a lifetime of nothing, to belong to someone. And I have already told you what it is, haven't I? I told you in the very first minutes. It ends the loneliness of the self. That's the whole of it. That's the bait, the method, and the goal, all in one. It doesn't come as a monster. It comes as the end of being alone. It comes as exactly the warm room Sam offered me, exactly the dark window answering my knock, exactly the relief of another person's breath in the night. So when I felt myself needing Mara, I, who had never needed anyone, whose entire unbreakable wall was that he reached back for no one, when I felt that wall come down, there was only one thing it could mean. It was in. It had found the one door I had. Not sleep. Her. It had come up through the building, floor by floor, and it had not bothered to break down my barricade because it didn't need to. I'd opened the door myself. I'd taken the chain off myself. I'd let the warmth in and called it company. And the warmth was the water, and the water was at my neck, and I had carried it in with my own two hands the way I carry everything that destroys me. Do you see it now? Do you see how clean it was? The closer I got to her, the more certain I became that she was the way it was getting to me. Because why else? Why else, after 40 cold years, would I suddenly, finally, need a person? People don't change, not like that, not that fast. Something had changed me, and there was only one something, and it was sitting 3 feet away, splitting the last of the coffee and smiling at me in the dark. They're close now. I can hear more than one. I can hear them breathing on the stairs together, that slow, even tide coming up. I'm going to tell you what I did. I'm not going to dress it. She deserves it told plain. We ran on the third night. Down the stairwell because the elevator was a box that opened wherever it wanted, and we weren't getting in a box. Down through the building, floor by floor, in the dark, toward the car and the west and the towns that still slept. You have to understand what a stairwell becomes at the end. Concrete and a single rail and the smell of every winter the building ever had, all stacked up in the cold air. And dark. We didn't dare a light. So it was the two of us feeling our way down, my hand on the rail, her hand on my belt, so we wouldn't lose each other, one floor of black at a time. And it was full of sound. The hum was strongest there. Of course it was. A stairwell is a throat, a long vertical throat running up through the whole building, and the held note came pouring down it from above and welling up it from below until it met in the middle, where we were. And we were inside the sound the way you're inside water. I could feel it in my teeth, in the rail, in the wet concrete under my hand, and the doors. Every landing at a door, and behind every door was the warm seam of light along the floor, that all the lamps on glow. And behind the doors you could hear them, breathing. Whole apartments breathing together, slow and even. Families I'd shared an elevator with for 4 years, all of them turned now to the same gentle tide. And as we passed each door, the breathing on the other side would pause. Just slightly, the way a sleeping thing pauses when something walks past its bed. They knew we were in the throat with them. They felt the grit going by. On the 5th floor landing, a door was open. A couple stood in it. I'd known them to wave at. Older, gentle people, the kind who held the lobby door and asked after your day. And they were standing in their doorway in all that warm light, side by side, not blocking our way, not reaching, just there, watching us come down. And the woman smiled at us, so kindly, so glad. And she said, "Oh, you don't have to run. There's room for you. There's room for everyone. You're nearly..." In my head, that was the trap closing. In my head, I took Mara's hand and I pulled her past and down fast, because the open door was a mouth and the warm light was the bait, and the kindly old faces were just the last clothes the thing had left to wear. From the landing, though, from outside my head, it was two frightened old people who'd heard footsteps in a dark stairwell at the end of the world, and opened their door, and offered the only thing they had left to offer, which was room, which was, "Come in, you don't have to be out there alone." And a wild-eyed man who hadn't slept in 2 weeks dragged a woman past them in the dark and didn't answer, didn't even slow. That one I didn't touch. I want that said. I had it in me to, and I didn't, and the only reason was that they didn't try to follow. Hold that beside everything else when you weigh me. I didn't hurt the ones who let me pass. I only ever hurt the ones who reached for me. Think about what that means for a second. Think about what kind of thing a man has become when the only people safe from him are the ones who don't try to help. And the building. I have to make you see the building, because in my head it was a battlefield, and I moved through it like a soldier, and I need you to hold what it actually was at the same time. In my head, every door we passed was a turned thing, and behind every door was the light, and the hum was everywhere now, that held note, that closed-mouth chord rising up the stairwell like the building itself was singing. In my head, things came at us. On the 4th floor, a door opened, and a man I'd nodded to for 4 years stepped out into the hall with his arms a little open and his face full of that terrible peace. And he said, soft, glad, "Oh, you're nearly..." And I did not let him finish. In my head, he was a mouth the thing was speaking through, and I shut the mouth. That's how it was in my head. I want to tell you how it would have looked from the hallway, from outside my head. I've made myself build it over and over in here with all this time. From the hallway, it would have looked like a man who hadn't slept in 2 weeks coming down a dark stairwell with a weight in his hand. It would have looked like a neighbor opening his door at the noise. An old man, frightened, the way everyone was frightened. Reaching out the way you reach for someone in a panic. Saying something, saying anything. Maybe just half a word before. And people begging. That's the part. In my head, it was the unison. It was the thing speaking through all its mouths at once. But begging and the unison. From the hallway, I think they sound the same. I think a person on their knees with their hands up saying, "Please, please, it's me, you know me." I think that's what I was calling the unison. I think I had found a way to hear mercy as the enemy's voice so that I would not have to stop. I don't know. I will never know. That's not me being coy with you. That is the actual shape of the actual hole where the truth should be. I was the only witness, and I was a broken instrument, and the readings are gone. We got to the ground floor, Mara and I. We made it. The lobby door was right there, glass and the dark street beyond, and her car at the curb. And we were going to make it. And I should have let us make it. But in the lobby, in the last of it, with freedom 8 feet away, Mara grabbed my arm. She grabbed my arm and she pulled me to a stop, and she looked at me with her whole human, frightened face, and she said, "Wait, wait, look at me. We're going to be okay. Stay with me. We're nearly..." And the world went very quiet and very clear. Nearly. She'd said it. Or she'd started to say it. Or she'd said a word that begins the same way 100 harmless words begin. We're nearly there. We're nearly out. We're nearly free. And my broken instrument took that first syllable and finished it the way it had learned to finish everything. The way the woman at work finished it, the way Sam finished it. The way the whole turning city finished every sentence I let it nearly open. I looked at the person who had ended my loneliness. The one human being in 40 years to get inside the wall. And the cold, ruined certain thing in me said, with total calm, the calmest it had ever been, there's your proof. It saved her for last. It used the best bait it had. It made you need her, and then it spoke through her, right at the door, right at the threshold. Because the threshold is the whole game. The threshold is all it has ever wanted. To be let through one more door. And the tired human thing in me, the last scrap, the part that had put on a clean shirt and gone to dinner, that part screamed that she was just scared, that she'd just stumbled on a word, that this was a frightened woman in a lobby trying to keep a madman calm long enough to get them both outside. Both voices, same throat, always the same throat. And I had to choose which one to believe in about 1 second, with the hum rising and the light coming under the stairwell door, and her hand on my arm, and her eyes. Her eyes. She looked at me right at the end, and her face changed. Not into peace, not into that warm, turned glow. It changed into pure, total animal terror. The mask of the calm, frightened neighbor fell off all at once, and underneath was someone who had just understood, far too late, exactly what she was standing next to in an empty lobby with no one left in the world to hear her. And I read that terror as the last proof of all. I told myself, there it is, the thing inside her, finally dropping the disguise, finally showing me what it really was, now that the bait had failed. That's what I told myself. I know now what I was actually looking at. I've had all this time to know it. I was looking at a sane woman, the last sane woman in my world, the only one who took the chain off her door for me, realizing in her final second that the monster the building had been filling with light, floor by floor, was me. It had never come up the stairs at all. It had come up them in my arms 3 nights before when she let me in. I did not let her out the door. I'll leave it where I left Sam. Not to spare you, there's no sparing anyone now, least of all me. I leave it there because what comes after is just a man alone in a quiet lobby again, with the one dark window in his world gone dark for good, and his own breath, the only breath, and the cold thing whispering, see, it went quiet, you were right. And nothing left to argue back. The human thing didn't argue that time. That's how I knew it was nearly over for me too. Not taken, worse than taken. Just empty. The wall I'd been so proud of, the wall that kept the God out, still standing, perfect, unbreached, with no one left inside it. Which brings me here, to this room, this little red light. This is where the story stops being something that happened and becomes something that's happening, because I've caught up to myself now. I've talked us all the way to the present. There's no more behind me to tell. There's only the door and what's on the other side of it, and the small amount of time I have before they meet. I ran here after the lobby. I don't even know how long ago. Time stopped being a line for me a while back. It's all just one long gray now, with things floating in it. I found this place, a storage room, a basement, a forgotten cavity in the bones of some building, it doesn't matter which. A door that locked from the inside. The first locked door I'd been on the right side of in a long time. And I did what you do I suppose, when you've come to the end of yourself and there's a little red light and no one left alive who knew your name. I started talking. I told myself it was a warning, a record, evidence, so that whoever came after would know what took the city, would know to go west, to find a town that still slept in the dark. That's what I told myself I was doing, leaving a map for the survivors. But I've been listening to my own voice for an hour now, in here, in the dark, and I don't think that's what this is. I don't think a warning spends this long explaining why. I don't think a map keeps saying I want it on the record that I tried. I don't think a man leaves instructions for strangers and keeps circling back again and again to the question of whether he was mad. I think this is the other thing. I think this is what a person does when some buried part of them already knows what they did and can't carry it and needs to lay it down in front of someone, anyone, even a light, even you, and have it called a war instead of what it was. I think I have been building this whole hour a story I could live inside for the few minutes I have left. A story where I'm the last man and not the worst one. I don't know if it worked. I've been telling it and watching it not quite hold, the way it never holds, the seam always showing, the human thing and the cold thing in the same throat to the very end. I'll let you decide. You've heard all of it now. You decide where the man stops. You decide if there was a God on the hill, or only a tired, frightened person who couldn't bear the size of his own loneliness and pulled the whole world down into it so he wouldn't be down there alone. You decide. I'm too close. I was always too close. There. They're at the door. I can hear them right outside it now, and I'm going to tell you what I hear, and I need you to understand that I am telling you the truth. My truth. The only kind I have left, and that I know it might not be the truth at all. I hear the hum, that held note, that closed mouth chord right up against the wood. I hear breathing, more than one, slow and even and together, that terrible tide. And under the door, light. Warm light, the turned light, the all the lamps on light, pouring in gold along the gap at the bottom, getting wider, getting brighter as the door starts to give. It's opening. After everything, after all of it, the door is finally, nearly open. That's the joke, isn't it? That was the phrase all along. The door. It was always just the door. Let me in. Open the door. The simplest prayer there is, and I spent my whole life with the chain on. And here at the end, something is finally going to take it off for me. And I am so tired. I want you to know that I'm not fighting it. Not anymore. There's nothing left in here to fight with, and nothing left in here worth saving. And maybe this is the thing it offered all along. The thing Sam offered, the thing Mara offered, the thing I killed them both rather than take. Maybe on the other side of this door is the warm room. People who like you. An end to the loneliness of the self. Maybe I don't have to be alone behind the wall anymore. Maybe I just have to let it in. I think I'm going to let it in. The door's almost through. The light's almost the whole room. I can almost make out shapes in it coming for me. And I'm not afraid. I'm not. I'm ready. I've been ready since the lobby, since Sam, since the train, since the very first morning a quiet man held my eyes a half-second too long. And then one of the shapes in the light says, my name. Just my name. Soft. The way you'd say it to someone you didn't want to startle. The way you'd say it to a frightened animal, or a child who's done something terrible and doesn't know yet how terrible, or a man at the end of a long siege you've finally talked your way to the end of. Not the hum, not the unison, not the phrase. My name. In a voice that is tired and human and gentle and sad. So sad. The saddest thing I've ever heard. Sadder than the woman above the laundromat. And behind it, very faint, almost kind, a voice through a speaker telling someone to go slow, he's not well. And the light isn't gold. The light is white, and it sweeps. And it's the kind of light that comes from the front of things, the kind that men carry, the kind that finds you. Oh no. Please let it be the hum. Please let it be the God. Please let there have been a God. Please let the city really have turned. Please let the windows really have filled with light. Please let Sam have been a mouth and Mara have been the bait. Please don't let it have been just me. Just a man. Just a man and a phone and a city full of people who were only ever scared, and the two who loved him, and the ones outside this door who came too late and are still, even now, even after everything, still trying to be kind. They're saying my name again. I'm going to answer it. I don't know which one I'm answering, the God or the gentle voice, the opening or the men with the light. I can't tell anymore. I told you I never could. But I'm going to set this down now, the little red light. I'm going to set it down still running so that someone hears it, someone after, someone safe with the lights on. And I'm going to turn toward the door and let it.